Well, hello, Zach. Thanks for taking this call and getting on with us. What I'd like to do is get to know a bit about you and your business. So, could you start by telling me how you got started, why you got started?
Sure. Yeah, so Zack Burick, I am in the Triad area of North Carolina, and I own DS Duggins Welding Incorporated. So Duggins was started back in 1986, which was before my time. I went to UNC Charlotte in the School of Engineering, and as I was looking for internships while I was in school, one of my childhood baseball coaches introduced me to Derek Duggins, who started the company, as I mentioned, back in '86. So I came on summer of 2013 in between my junior and senior year of college, and I was an intern, which was keyword for cheap labor. So I spent the entire summer, about 3 months out in the field, and I learned more in those 3 months than the previous 3 years in the classroom, which to my surprise was to be expected. Basically everything that we did as a still erector out in the field. Gradually moved into the office to begin estimating, and then as time went on, just took on more and more responsibility within the business, which also led to day-to-day operations, conversations about the financial side of things with the owners. And through all that, Derek and I had started conversations about, what was his exit strategy, what did that look like, and how may I fit into it. And so, sort of long story short, it was a good time for him, good time for me, him to kind of get out of it, me to take over, which was a goal that my wife and I were working towards for about 6 straight years.
Mhm.
So yeah, it so far so good. It's working out, and I kind of made that progression from entrepreneur to entrepreneur.
So, when you started the studies, was this something that you knew you wanted to do, or was this just kind of fell into your lap, or what was your thought process when you decided, yeah, this is what I want to do?
Yeah, so initially I wanted to teach high school math and coach baseball. And when I graduated high school in 2010, it was about that time that I want to say over 1,000 teachers lost their jobs that year. And the ones that kept their jobs, I believe, took a pay cut. And as you know, educators don't make enough for what they do, anyways. And so my grandma, she was smart enough and had a big enough influence on me that she looked at me and she said, "You're smarter than what you're giving yourself credit for, right? Like you want to do math, you want to work with numbers, you can do something bigger than just teaching high school math. Which again, nothing wrong with high school math teachers. I just don't feel like they're compensated for what they do, how they should be. But she said you can still be a teacher without teaching in a classroom." And so that kind of sparked my interest into the construction industry and engineering. Sort of grew up around it. My dad and everybody on that side of the family, mainly my grandpa and my dad, they had a wood framing company. So I had been exposed to the construction industry at a young age, and had an interest in it. But I had no clue, even after becoming that cheap intern, that I wanted to become an entrepreneur. That was something that as I put myself in rooms with the right people, started following people on social media, YouTube, that type of stuff, that the entrepreneurial, I guess, fire was lit under me. And I've always had an entrepreneurial mindset, even as a kid. But yeah, I had no clue that this is the path that I'd take whenever I was just a young, dumb college kid.
So that's cool. You've had some influences in your life that kind of pointed you in that direction, and then you investigated and learned more, and as you say, got bit by the entrepreneurial bug. Tell me, what are some of the common misconceptions about running a business now that you're doing it?
Yeah. Oh man. Um, I think you can compare entrepreneurship to social media. social media is huge these days, and most of what everybody sees from the outside is just highlight reels. And so, we as consumers, we see all the good, we see the equipment and the nice trucks and the vehicles on the road. We see basically the highlights, right? But what folks don't see, and especially team members, I feel like, is all the risk and all the heartache that we as entrepreneurs go through. Um, as an employee, there's not a whole lot of risk working for an employer. If you lose your job, you decide to go somewhere else. The next day, you've got another job. As an entrepreneur, I mean, we can lose everything. And for me, I know I can speak from experience.
Mhm.
I went 100% all in everything that my wife and I had worked for up to the point of signing the papers to acquire this business. We went 100% in. And so I don't think the general population, if you will, everybody from the outside looking in sees exactly how much risk we as entrepreneurs take in order to provide opportunities, not just for our families, but for all of our team members and their families around us.
So you own the business, you're running the business. Tell me a bit about your staff, your team.
Yep. So when I started here at Duggins, I think we had, I don't know, 25 team members or so.
Mhm.
And that was again back in 2013. I've been part of and helped the company grow from that to about 35 folks whenever I took over. And, we've continued to grow, top line revenue, team members, equipment across the board. And so we average about 50 team members a week now.
When you say average, does that mean you've got a base number and then you added or some temps or something like that? Or
We self-perform 99% of our work.
okay,
Anything that we don't self-perform, we subcontract. So we don't have any
okay,
temps per se. But in our industry, the construction industry, there is turnover, and so
okay.
there's folks that come and go. Lucky for us, our industry as a whole has been really strong, especially over the last decade, I'd say. And so we haven't had to lay off anybody for nearly a decade.
Outstanding.
There's folks that don't necessarily fit our culture, and most of the time they work themselves out and quit before we even have to consider firing them. But yeah, that average number, everybody here, we get paid on Fridays every single week, and so I see the check count every single week once payroll's finished. Yeah, we typically have, it's between 47 and 53 ish, so about 50 on average, and that goes from general laborers to riggers to welders to connectors to foremen, crane operators, project managers, any position you can think of in our industry, we've got it.
Very cool. Talk about work-life balance as a
What is
business
that?
owner.
Work-life balance. I laugh whenever people say that because as an entrepreneur, it doesn't exist. And I challenge anybody that can claim that it does, because if you've ever seen a scale that you use to balance something, what does it balance at? It balances at zero. So I'm not going to be a zero, and I'm okay with my life being out of balance. Now, what I will say is, whenever I'm at work, I'm at work. Whenever I'm at home, I'm at home. So while there may not be balance per se, like I'm present in every aspect of my life whenever I am, wherever at that point in the day.
Very good. Any things that you do to try and maintain focus?
Yeah, I guess I like to torture myself a little bit. I say that jokingly, but my morning routine doesn't waver. I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I do a fasted cardio first thing. I'll eat my first meal. I'll go to the gym for an hour, hour and a half. Come home, get in the sauna, and I'm now starting to incorporate cold plunges, which is where the torture comes in. Um, but everything for those first, 2.5, 3 hours in the morning, that sets the tone for my day. And doing all those things, while I don't, I may not necessarily enjoy it every single morning, what it does is keeps me consistent. It keeps me uncomfortable. And I think being uncomfortable and becoming comfortable being uncomfortable is important for not just entrepreneurs, but leaders in general.
So, business landscape, it's always changing. So, how do you stay adaptable, open to change, and determine which way to turn and pivot or address whatever's dynamic you're in?
Yeah, I think the answer is kind of in the question. You've got to be open to change. You got to be willing to pivot. Um, we're kind of a niche subcontractor as a structural steel erector. So, what we do primarily is hang the skeleton of buildings, commercial buildings, whether it be a baseball stadium or a drive-through canopy at a bank. Um, but I believe we're versatile in the fact that we can handle anything from said drive-through canopy that may be a 1 or 2 ton project all the way to a 5-story residence hall at a university that may be 1,000 tons. We've got the team, we've got capable employees that are willing to put in the work and to get the job done. But when things change, I mean, we can do things such as expand our work radius, right? So we do most of our work here in North Carolina, a little bit up into Virginia now. Um, and, the majority of that work is in the Triad area, which is called a 50 to 75 mile radius from our home office. So most of our guys, they're sleeping in their own bed every night, which is one intangible, if you will, that's kind of attracted and retained a lot of the team members that we have that maybe used to work for some of the bigger steel erectors across the country. Um, but yeah, just being willing and able to expand that work radius, contract it whenever we can, and being willing to take on those smaller jobs or the nasty renovations that not a whole lot of people want to touch.
Take a glimpse into the future. Where do you want to be? Where do you want to go? What do you think you see there?
Yeah. Um, if I looked at where I'm at right now 10 years ago, I don't know that I would have believed it was possible, right? So 10 years ago, I was probably striving to just be running this company, maybe own it. We're there, we got there, and we more than doubled our gross revenue my first year as captain of the ship, if you will. And so as I've gained more experience and I've seen more and I've done more, um, my mindset has become almost limitless. And so there's far more that I believe I can do with my team around me. Obviously, I can't do it by myself, but there's far more that I believe that we can do than we can't do. So, that could mean doubling in revenue again. It could mean acquiring another company to expand our current business. It could mean having adding a another division to our company. It could be equipment. It could be outside of Duggins, I've gotten into real estate. It could be more real estate. I've got a beard company that I make and distribute beard products. It could be growing that. So for me personally, it's a lot more of what I'm doing already, just at a higher scale.
That sounds almost limitless.
That's how I like to live.
So, what advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs who are kind of just starting out?
Yeah, that's a good question. And fortunately, I was able to put myself in rooms with people that were way further ahead in their career and life than I was. And so that'd be one of my biggest pieces of advice is you don't have to do it by yourself. You don't have to be a solopreneur and figure it out along the way, although you will learn a ton as you go just from trial and error and experience. But I would highly recommend any entrepreneur, even any entrepreneur that wants to become that entrepreneur, highly encourage them to join mastermind groups, which is, just a group of people with, like-minded goals and aspirations, ideas. Bounce those ideas that you have off of the folks that are already there. They're doing what you want to be doing. And you can just learn so much from other people, especially through mistakes that they're willing to share. Treat them, adopt them as your own, and then you don't have to make that same mistake. And what that does is just expedites that success journey so much. What took somebody 20 years may just take you 10.
Very good. You speak as if there's no challenge that you perceive you can't take on.
Um, I'm a very confident person, but I would be lying if I told you there weren't challenges along the way. Um, Success is rented and the payments due every single day. And the second that you take your foot off the gas, that's whenever you get past, because I promise there's somebody just as hungry as you once were. And whenever you let off, they then become hungrier and they get that much closer to you. I do challenge myself to outperform the me from yesterday, right? If I can become 1% better today than I was yesterday, then I'm improving. And if I can continue to beat myself every single day, then I'm going to continue to win. Um, a lot of what I say is positive, and it is somewhat of a limitless mindset, but that's developed over time. I've always been confident, but I didn't have the experience to go along with it. So I can see now going through some of those hurdles that we've had to jump over, the down seasons whenever we're losing money month over month, and see that it's exactly that. It's just a season. As long as we stay true to our core values, we stay to the plan, and stay committed, it's going to work itself out, right? You certainly got to be smart about the finances and the people that you put on your team and all that kind of stuff. But sure, there's challenges. It's it's very difficult to be successful, especially with so many resources around now with social media and YouTube, and you can get an MBA at YouTube Academy. But yeah, I certainly don't want to come across as if there's no challenges or hurdles that I've had to go through and jump over. But yeah, I think it's just it all starts in between the ears with the mindset.
And I think that's a good place to leave it because the challenges and the opportunities all have impact based on how you perceive them.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, just to add to that just a little bit, I don't know about you, but I've learned far more about myself and how to handle situations through failures way more than I have success. Right? Whenever
Mhm.
whenever success comes your way and things are rolling and it's easy, right? But whenever those hard times come and you get smacked in the mouth, it's how do you respond? And that's one thing that I've had to learn is to respond and not just react to things,
Yeah.
right? So take a deep breath, think about different options that you may have with whatever situation at hand is, and trust that whatever decision you make is it's the best decision that you can make.
This is great. Thank you so much for your time and your wisdom. And we'll end here.